Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Text Me When You Get Home. And this is Ashley Kline. 23-year-old Berks County resident Ashley Kline walked out of her front door 2 weeks ago and seemingly vanished into thin air.
She didn't go anywhere without telling me where she was going or how long she'd be gone.
Shouldn't you heard a fly? Who could have done something to her? Where could she be?
Something was very wrong. It's a pretty strong indicator that something bad has happened to her.
I didn't know what to think, so it was an emotional roller coaster. Where is she?
There were a lot of twists and turns and so many viable suspects.
Now we know we have a clear and distinct horrific crime.
A young woman is missing tonight after leaving a bar with a stranger, then texting help to a friend.
You're watching her terrifying abduction. A missing woman's new body was discovered in this ravine.
Miraculously, the young woman survived.
There is an alarming crisis of violence, kidnapping, and murder against innocent women. The census runner has struck a chord with thousands of women. This has sparked a global movement online of women sharing their own fears. They're united under a hashtag, Text Me When You Get Home, a phrase that women are all too familiar with.
Robizonia, Pennsylvania is a small rural community of just over 2,000 people, nestled among trees and cornfields about an hour outside of Allentown.
We lived in the center of Roseland. I knew everybody in the entire block. It was kind of like Leave It to Beaver type neighborhood. Everybody looked out for each other's kids. They were safe to be outside all day long. It was the perfect neighborhood to raise kids.
Michael Kline raises his children alone after his wife experiences a debilitating illness and eventually passes away. One of those children is daughter Ashley.
Ashley was a petite, girly girl. She loved makeup, dresses. She was very outgoing as far as being very friendly with everybody.
Ashley was really a little sweetheart. She would do anything for you. She wanted to help wherever she could help.
I'm best friends with Ashley Kline. Since 5th grade, I practically lived at her house on the weekends. She was just my best friend, like a sister more so to me.
As a young child, Ashley is inadvertently exposed to a dangerous substance in her own backyard.
We were living in a very old home, and the outside of the building was painted with lead paint. Kids like to go out in the yard and play, and I didn't know that she was out there eating paint chips.
White lead paint is as sweet as white sugar and tastes like candy to children.
Lead is very toxic, especially to young children. So we got her tested. She had a very high lead level, and the lead is what caused her disability. The only time you could notice that she had a learning disability was actually in school. Otherwise, you would never notice. Most of her friends never knew she had a disability.
I couldn't really tell. To me, she seemed like a normal friend. She didn't seem different to me.
In my interactions with Ashley, you could notice she was kind of childlike, but still a lot of fun when her mom got sick. They didn't have a mom at home anymore, so I kind of became a mommy figure because I think a girl always needs her mom.
In high school, Ashley takes courses at the local technical school and plans on a career in childcare.
After she graduated from high school, she babysit for people in her church and people around her neighborhood, and they all loved Ashley.
Ashley loved babysitting.
Loved little babies and loved kids, and yeah, she was a sweetheart.
At 23, Ashley still lives at home in the family's modest 3-story brick home with her dad and her siblings.
We had a very good relationship. Even in into her 20s, she always called me daddy. We'd go out shopping together. It was a very close, tight-knit relationship.
By June of 2009, Ashley is in a committed relationship.
When they were together, they were unstoppable. They were so good together. And so I never seen them so happy.
In 2013, after almost 4 years of dating, their relationship strikes a more serious tone.
Ashley and her boyfriend were looking at getting a place together because she was planning to move out soon.
That Christmas, he had given her a necklace with both their birthstones in it, and I know he was going to like propose to her and everything.
Even though Ashley enjoys a robust social life, she makes a point to check in with loved ones.
She would text me, "Hey, Daddy, I'm going out with Sammy. We're going to go bowling or whatever."
Ashley would be on her phone and she's texting people, and you'd ask her who she's talking to, and she'd never tell you. She'd just say, "I'm talking to my peeps."
She didn't go anywhere without telling me where she was going or how long she'd be gone.
We did keep tabs, like let me know when you get home, either call me or text me, and she would do that.
It was December, almost New Year's, so it was very cold outside.
Around 11 p.m., Ashley's messaging her best friend, Sam, about their New Year's Eve party the next night.
We were texting things to do and stuff like that.
Then, shortly after texting Samantha, Ashley leaves the house.
I actually had the flu. I was getting over it. I was sitting in our dining room watching TV. She came down, no long goodbye or anything. I was just like, "Okay, bye, see you when you get back." And when she didn't come back, I just assumed she went right to Sam's house. Sam lived at that time 4 blocks away.
Assuming his daughter spent the night with Samantha, and because she is a responsible adult of 23, Michael has little concern when he doesn't see Ashley the following day.
They were having a New Year's Eve get together. She was getting ready for that.
I don't think she knew how to spell trouble. She was a good kid.
But unbeknownst to Michael, Samantha hasn't seen Ashley since they texted the night before.
We had plans that she was going to come to my house to help set up for the party. She just never showed up. Because I was busy doing stuff for the party, I didn't think anything of it when I didn't hear nothing. Maybe her phone died, maybe something happened to her phone, maybe she's just busy. I just never heard from her. When everybody started coming to the party and we were calling and it went straight to voicemail, that's when it really hit the fan that something's wrong.
Samantha texted me and said Ashley never made it. I knew there was a problem because she never did that. So at that point, I called the police, but they're like, "Well, she's 23. She can do what she wants."
We're all trying to call her, and we can't figure out why, because it's so unlike her to not answer when you call her. If Ashley said she was going to be somewhere, she was going to be there. So we knew there was something going on.
Ashley's dad, boyfriend, and friends continue to reach out to her.
I text several times. All her friends tried to call and text, and nobody got an answer.
Michael reaches out again to the local police department.
They would start looking in about 3 or 4 days, which wasn't acceptable to me. So I got a meeting with the patrolman who was on duty at the time. We took her school records and we went to prove that she had a learning disability and that this is something she would never do.
Ashley's dad tells law enforcement that she is more trusting than other people.
Her learning disability would have put her mental capacity at about 15.
The police allow Michael to file a missing persons report. He describes Ashley as last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, pajama pants, a black puffy jacket, and pink boots.
I was concerned about her learning disability. Anybody could have enticed her to whatever, what happened, where is she? Nobody knew.
At 11 p.m. on Saturday, December 30th, 23-year-old Ashley Kline left home and didn't come back.
I tried to call her, and it didn't go through.
No one has heard from her in over 24 hours, and her dad filed a missing persons report with local police.
I attempted to call her, keep calling, texting. A few days after, no response. So it was an emotional roller coaster.
I was aware that Ashley went missing when her sister messaged me. I told her sister I had not seen her or heard from her in a few days.
We started making flyers and putting them out on telephone poles and in stores. We would go around asking people, hey, did you ever see this person? Just try and find her.
To see those flyers made my heart break because I just wanted my best friend home.
As police work the case, the Kline family gathers nightly, hoping for the best, while the news picks up the story.
Ashley went missing from a home in Robezonia, Berks County on December 30th. She was walking to a friend's house, but never made it.
It was pretty devastating because you're watching the news and there's this picture of Ashley, beautiful Ashley, and it was rough to watch.
More than 48 hours after Ashley went missing, there is a break in the case when a citizen in nearby Adamstown finds a woman's personal items.
This was covered by a local police department who received the missing person report. Once some articles were found in neighboring counties, then the state police became involved as an investigative team to try to say, do we have a bigger problem here? Is this more than just a missing girl now at this point?
We didn't get involved until they found her items near the retention pond. Her purse with her identification in it. There was an empty cell phone case, and there was a pink boot that Ashley had been wearing when she was last seen.
Finding Ashley's personal belongings is a red flag to investigators.
The fact that her purse was found is not consistent with somebody just leaving town and moving on. It's a pretty strong indicator that something bad has happened to her.
Law enforcement also discover an unusual item.
There was a Phillies baseball cap that was black and white found along with her purse. The Phillies colors are red and white. There's a light blue, but this was unusual colors for Phillies baseball cap, so it was in many ways unique. So why was this hat there, with her stuff?
In 2014, in Berks County, abduction of women or really even assaults of women or murders was pretty low, if not almost unheard of at the time.
One of the troopers who came to my house said we had found her purse and some other items. I was glad that the troopers were there searching, but that was very troubling.
I was extremely upset because when they found the items, I thought they found her. And then when we found out they didn't find her, I was still like, okay, what happened to her? Because now this is real. Where is she?
I tried to hold out hope that maybe she was injured or alive somewhere.
I felt very worried, emotional. I wanted to cry. That's when my heart was like starting to sink in my stomach. I knew something was very wrong. They had troopers searching the field. They actually had helicopters scanning the ground. A large number of people on foot.
We would end up using cadaver dogs to try to help search to see if she was in the area somewhere and had been discarded and left somewhere.
5 days after she went missing, her sister starts a Bring Home Ashley Kline social media page, hoping it will spread the news of Ashley's disappearance.
In addition to that, in this time frame, we're also pulling phone records to try to find out where a path of travel was for her, potentially even where she ended up if the phone's still with her.
So we could see the movements of Ashley's phone, and at the time of her disappearance, she was down in the Reinholds area.
Investigators discover that Ashley had been in touch with an acquaintance she met through church, who sought out religion as a means of counsel, community, and redemption.
Ashley's phone happened to be in very close proximity to a friend of her who was on the sexual predators list for his conviction. He wasn't in jail, and he had served whatever time he needed to serve. So, but he was on our list as suspect.
Ashley's phone records reveal this friend placed a 3-minute call to her at 10 p.m. on December 30th, which is just before she left her house. Investigators contact the friend to see what he knows.
He had been interested in her romantically, and she hadn't been interested in him.
This apparently appeared to be an accidental call. It did not appear that there was any contact made with him that night in person.
Of course, they were checking everybody. Even I was interviewed by several troopers different times.
We then go to people she contacts all the time, lifelong friends, or people that would be able to explain what would be normal for her to do, where she would go, who she would hang out with, to try to understand where she could have ended up or what she could have done.
Ashley's current boyfriend is on the list of people investigators want to talk to.
He had informed us that he had been in contact with Ashley throughout the day she was reported missing. However, at some point, the communication from her seemed to abruptly stop.
According to authorities, Ashley's boyfriend says he was home playing video games when Ashley went missing.
Her boyfriend, he didn't have any kind of an alibi. He said he just was at home alone. I think he had seen his brother.
Ashley's boyfriend, the day after she's reported missing, did not show up for work. We want to know why.
Ashley Kline has been missing for 8 days. Her purse was found along with a black and white Phillies hat that didn't belong to her. State police continue to question her friends and acquaintances. One of them is lifelong friend, 19-year-old Ryan Schanauer.
We ended up interviewing Ryan Schanauer based on the fact that we knew he was a close family friend, and that it was not uncommon for him to hang out and associate with Ashley frequently. Ashley and him were very close, very tight, and very comfortable with each other.
Ryan Schanauer is interviewed at his home.
He was very cooperative with the police, and he indicated that he had seen Ashley on the night of December 30th, that he had picked her up. They had watched some movies together at his house. He told the police that she seemed distracted. She was texting with somebody, he didn't know who.
He then ultimately drove her back to the area of her house. She had said she was going to another friend's house in the area, so he dropped her off nearby. And his report was that he had last observed her walking down the alley, and that was the last that he had seen her.
He was very eager to tell the police that, look, I was in communication with her after I left, and in fact showed them text messages between himself and Ashley that went well into 1 o'clock in the morning.
Ryan shows investigators the text messages between he and Ashley.
Ryan said that after he left Ashley, that he went to see some friends in the Reinholds area, and his car broke down, and he had to call a tow truck.
But there was actually video surveillance footage of that. We were able to verify that, in fact, his car did break down the night of her disappearance. That vehicle was ultimately towed and ultimately ended up at a repair shop.
He becomes a suspect just because he's the last person to see her alive.
Investigators uncover even more items in a different location on the same property where Ashley's cell phone case and boots were found.
Police ended up recovering socks as well as a camera that was found discarded that had actually been lodged in a pond water circulation type of tank. That camera had a serial number on it. We were ultimately able to match that serial number to a box in Ashley's room, but we still didn't know where Ashley was.
When you found those items near the retention pond, we feared that she was going to be at the bottom of the retention pond.
9 days after Ashley's disappearance, the water retention tanks are drained.
When they had drained that holding tank, they were looking for her body. So I was still holding out hope, but there was very little hope at that time. We didn't find Ashley, but we did find a keychain, which absolutely was linked to her.
When I found out that they found her stuff but they didn't find her body, I was at the point where, okay, something's really wrong. Where could she be?
At some point, we really realized that it wasn't going to be good.
Because Ryan was the last person known to have seen Ashley, state police called him to come in for an interview.
Ryan responded to the station at our request to have an interview conducted.
During the interview, state police asked Ryan to hand over his phone.
He showed the state police his phone and gave him consent to look at it. That corroborated his alibi and that he was not responsible for her death because she was texting him hours after he left her.
Investigators search Ashley's room again and find something that stops them in their tracks. A series of letters from a prison inmate.
She had developed a pen pal correspondence relationship with an inmate in Pennsylvania who had just been released shortly before she went missing.
But there is an explanation.
The letters that she was writing to a man in prison, that was started in my church. It was to send letters to inmates to try and brighten their day and lead them to Christ.
But the letters appear to take a dark and possessive turn.
We had a letter from him which said that he really appreciated all she'd done for him, and if anyone tried to keep us apart, he would kill them.
This prison pen pal had been released and is living in western Pennsylvania.
When he was interviewed, he provides alibis, although they're not very solid.
Investigators are also taking a closer look at Ashley's boyfriend.
State police had to take her laptop and her iPad. The day we filed the missing persons report, her boyfriend wanted to see who she was talking to, where she might be. So he wanted to go look through her Facebook and everything that she might have been texting, emails, whatever. So he changed the passwords on everything so no one can see what she's been doing. Like the jealous boyfriend, it just looked very suspicious.
When we found out about him changing her passwords, it's consistent with somebody trying to cover something up. His story to us was that he was jealous that she was chatting with other people and he wanted to cut that off. So he was the strongest suspect at that point in time.
Investigators are talking to 4 potential suspects.
There were a lot of twists and turns, and I don't recall too many cases where we had so many what seemed like pretty viable suspects.
Then, 13 days after Ashley goes missing, hikers along a nature trail about 15 miles south of Ashley's home make a shocking discovery. 13 days after 23-year-old Ashley Kline goes missing, hikers make a shocking discovery in a wooded area about 15 miles south of Ashley's home.
It's basically a sort of wildlife preserve sort of area, if you will, with trails. It is fairly secluded.
First responders determined they are human remains.
The body had been burned and charred beyond all recognition. There was very little to be able to identify who this person was. At this point, because being burned didn't in any way happen naturally, we knew that we had somebody trying to cover up a crime.
The state troopers, 2 of them came in and they wanted me to sign a waiver so they could get dental records.
We also had the autopsy done, and now we know for sure that it was Ashley Kline. She died from multiple traumatic injuries, including the fact she was stabbed 5 times in her back.
Now we know we have a clear and distinct horrific crime.
So our hope was that that she was burned after she was dead. Unfortunately, he found soot in her lungs, which is an indication that she was alive when she was burned, which is beyond incomprehensible to think about.
It is also clear that an accelerant was poured over Ashley's pelvis. After 14 agonizing days, the Kline family is told Ashley's body was found.
When Ashley was found, that probably was one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to me. The troopers said they could not relate any of the details of what happens, and they asked me not to tell anybody. They left and I turned on the news, and that's when I found out what happened to Ashley.
A body turned up in Middle Creek Waterfowl Refuge in Clay Township, Lancaster County on Sunday. Officials say the body is Ashley's, and they tell us she suffered significant trauma and her death is being ruled a homicide.
I was very traumatized. I couldn't believe it. Sitting there with my mouth hanging open. It's like, how could they do that? How could they say, don't tell anybody and put it on the news? Later on, the DA apologized for that, but it still happened.
How could anybody do this to anybody? Nonetheless, do this to the sweet girl who couldn't hurt anybody. She just loved everybody. They wouldn't hurt a fly. She was such a doll.
When I was told that they did find her body and what had happened, I was kind of relieved that they found her, but I was also emotional because I knew she wasn't going to come back alive. And to do this to my best friend, to my sister, I was very, very upset.
I just fell to my knees. I started crying. It's just like, why?
We were all devastated, and we tried to go on with our daily lives, but it was impossible.
We were just wondering who could have done this to her.
The DA comes up with a strategic plan to withhold details on Ashley's murder to determine for certain who killed her.
What happened to Miss Kline? He gets assaulted, stabbed. This is in the proximity of where her body was found. We want to put out enough information to the public and the media, but you also want to not release every single detail that you know. And one of the things that we withheld in this case from the public was the fact that she was burned. You want to know if somebody's going to come in and say the person was burned. Well, the only reason they can know this is if the person had been involved.
One of the investigators comes up with an idea to identify the killers that may or may not pay off.
One of the members of the state police said, okay, if there's accelerant used, somebody probably brought a can, a tank, something to hold gas in. So they spent hours, countless hours, looking for all potential gas stations, looking for video surveillance of somebody who purchased a small amount of gas with a gas can. Lo and behold, not only did they find somebody that bought $10 worth of gas in a gas can, but that person was wearing a Phillies cap, black and white Phillies cap, just like the one we had located with Ashley's purse. The same individual removed his coat and turned it inside out in what appeared to be an apparent attempt to hide his identity. He's identified by the state police as Adam Lynch.
Adam Lynch is well known to local law enforcement. He has a long rap sheet including criminal mischief, drug possession, and theft. Lynch is invited to come into the state police barracks for a voluntary interview.
They ask him about Ashley Kline. He says, I don't even know who she is. The police then confront him with the video that they have of him in the Phillies baseball cap. In fact, the Phillies baseball cap is found next to her purse. Suddenly his story changed. And now he remembers who Ashley Kline is. But what he says is he didn't kill her. Ryan Shanahan did. He says after it took place, he went along with him to help conceal it. Now we have Adam admitting to concealing a crime, but Adam saying I didn't have anything to do with a murder and wasn't there.
But police suspect Adam may have been directly involved in the murder, so they set out to build a case against him.
He did not seem like he was being entirely truthful with us. So one of the things you want to do is to see if you can corroborate his story or disprove his story. And he had a girlfriend, Jessica, who we were very interested in talking to.
23-year-old Ashley Kline was missing for 2 weeks before her badly burned body was discovered in a remote area of a wildlife preserve. Investigators question Adam Lynch after he is seen on gas station surveillance footage wearing the black and white Phillies hat found with Ashley's belongings. He says that his friend Ryan Shanauer killed Ashley and that he just helped dispose of her body after the fact. So police decide to question his girlfriend, Jessica.
Adam Lynch had a girlfriend, Jessica. We knew that Jessica had a loyalty to Adam Lynch, and if she talked to us, she also probably had a reason to be afraid of Adam Lynch. So the interview, it really wasn't going anywhere as far as getting substantive information. So at some point in time, they took a break. He went out and was smoking a cigarette with one of the troopers.
This change of scenery allows Jessica to drop her guard around the female trooper, who casually asks her what Ryan and Adam did to Ashley.
She whispered to the trooper, "They burned her." When she said they, she was talking about Ryan Shanauer and her boyfriend Adam Lynch. And that's, of course, a critical piece of information that we had withheld from the public, and we knew we were in the right direction.
The evidence that continued to come in became so overwhelming that we started to focus on those efforts as opposed to trying to explore anything with her current boyfriend.
As Jessica provides information to investigators, it becomes clear that Ashley's boyfriend is no longer a suspect.
Jessica actually went on to say that they went back and burned her a second time, and she was in the car at the time. How do you make something already reprehensible even more reprehensible? These guys managed to do it.
Investigators catch a break when they locate Ryan's vehicle.
Ryan's car was towed that night after it had broken down. We knew that, amazingly, it hadn't really been driven or used since the night of her disappearance. It was observed clearly through the window that there was some piece of jewelry on the floor.
We found a piece of jewelry that her boyfriend had given her. This was a precious possession. So the fact that that was in Ryan's car is evidence of a struggle had taken place.
Ultimately, there was a shoe impression found on the window. The tread on that forensically ended up being identical to the tread on Ashley's boots.
Something bad happened in that car.
15 days after Ashley Kline's murder, Adam is picked up on an outstanding warrant for a minor violation and brought to the barracks to be interviewed further.
What Adam Lynch did was say that he assisted in her keeping from escaping, which is enough for us to have accomplice liability. In other words, the crime doesn't take place unless he helps out here. So he talks his way into essentially a murder conviction.
Adam's relationship to Ashley was just known only through Ryan.
Ryan had talked to Adam about his anger towards Ashley Kline, his jealousy, and that he did want to harm her. He was going to Adam because Adam was known as the criminal, and Ryan wasn't, for advice on those things. So I don't think Adam had anything to do with the motivation or the initiation of this, but he willingly participated.
16 days after Ashley's murder, Ryan Shanauer is woken up and brought in for questioning.
I'm the one who interviewed Ryan. That was a long event. He continued to deny repeatedly any sort of involvement.
After several hours of Ryan rejecting the notion of being involved in Ashley's murder, Trooper Herb changes his tactic.
The interviews were all recorded. I actually used some of the audio clips from the interview with Adam Lynch to help Ryan get over the hump of trying to understand that you're not protecting him. You need to tell us what happened here.
Ryan's interrogation yields a stunning piece of information. The text messages Ryan showed police were actually sent by him to himself using Ashley's phone.
Her phone was actually being used by the perpetrators to give the appearance that she was still alive and well, even though at that point she had not been. So it was known that she had the mentality of a teenager, even though she was 23 years old. Someone that would readily go with Ryan, thinking she's safe. It would appear to me that they believed they probably had an easy target here.
Ryan and Adam continue to point the finger at each other while police piece together what really happened to Ashley.
What we know for facts involving the sequence of events that happened once Ashley left her house that night was that she met with Ryan.
After the pickup, they drove around for a long time, the three of them.
They pulled off, a deserted area. Adam was in the back seat. Ashley was positioned in the front passenger seat. At some point, Adam grabs Ashley from behind, ultimately drags her into the back seat.
Adam told us that Ryan then sexually assaulted Ashley.
Both socks being off and removed would certainly be consistent with someone's pants coming off. A shoe impression on the window obviously indicates that someone is in a prone position in the back seat.
They drive to a secluded area at the wildlife preserve.
At some point, they both forcefully dragged her out of the car, then stabbed her a number of times. We did find 2 knife sheaths, so it could have been both of them. She fought for her life. There's just no question that she fought as hard as she could.
The evidence at the scene where Ashley was found, there was a lot of heavy fire damage concentrated to her pelvic area. Ryan ultimately admitted to being involved in starting the fire once Ashley had been taken to the ground as a result of the stabbing.
They may have thought she's dead. I wish she had been dead, for her sake and the family's sake, because it was still in her lungs. So she was alive. We can only hope that she wasn't conscious when it took place.
Later that day, both men are arrested.
The moment I found out it was Ryan, I really did not believe it was him. I was like betrayed, devastated, because they grew up together like sister or brother or close cousins, and I just couldn't fathom that. I treated him as one of my own. That's why it came as such a shock and betrayal to find out it was him. Where he became a deviant, I don't know.
I think everybody in the church was praying for, especially Mike's family. Yeah, we were all praying.
Who would do something so mean? What was in their head? Why'd they do it?
23 days after the men murder Ashley Kline, she is laid to rest.
There was a lady who ran the Sunoco in Rosalia that Ashley was really good friends with. She raised enough funds to take care of the entire funeral without even me saying anything. It was heartwarming, and it also it helped us to cope, to know that she was loved and missed.
Obviously, this is particularly vicious and gruesome crime, and we have a job to do to make sure that justice is done. You're talking about people that killed a young, innocent girl in the mind of a 15-year-old, and not just taking a gun and shooting somebody. No, stabbing them to death is extremely personal, and then lighting them on fire, not once, but then going back to burn their body a second time. That's the kind of people that we're talking about here.
The DA files a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
To me, given the circumstances, the death penalty was the appropriate penalty. You look at the definition of torture in Pennsylvania, and we felt that was met in this case as well.
Almost a year after her murder, the men who killed Ashley have their day in court.
I did not go to it. It wouldn't have been a good ending for me because I was very upset, and yeah, I probably would have walked out in handcuffs.
Both Ryan and Adam are scheduled to plead guilty.
In an effort to avoid the death penalty, Adam and Ryan both ended up pleading guilty to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I was at the trial with my whole family. The judge went through every charge. It was very nerve-wracking. No matter how long they'd be in prison, Ashley was still going to be gone.
Ryan appears first.
Judge Ashworth, we specifically asked him, why did you do this? And I think the most you got out of him was, I don't really have an explanation.
During the trial, they blamed each other. When they moved to Adam, he was a person that I had never met before. He actually started to cry, which angered me very much. I believe that it was all instigated by Ryan because Ryan had romantic feelings towards Ashley, and I believe that his feeling was if he can't be with Ashley, then nobody will.
The two men are sentenced immediately to life in prison plus 20 to 40 years. Judge Ashworth called it one of the most egregious cases he's presided over due to Ashley's disability.
The law is the law, and you can't change that, but I don't feel enough justice was done for what they did.
This is a real person whose life was taken from her. She didn't have a trial. She didn't have a jury. She was sentenced to death by Adam Lynch and Ryan Shanauer.
I believe justice was served, although the entire thing I'm not happy with, but it is what it is. You really never move on from the loss of a loved one. Things that help are the people to remember her.
Ashley, I miss you very much. And know one day we'll be together again.
I named my daughter after her, so every time I see my daughter, I remember Ashley. It keeps her spirit alive in my heart.
And now she's in heaven. So I just have to say, I miss you, we love you.